about the Marshall Direct Fund, how it started, and what we do. I studied counterterrorism while I was in college and graduate school, and my focus was on Al-Qaeda. This was before 9/11, and at that time, and I continue to be, dismayed that we rely so heavily on force and really not on other tools of statecraft to prevent the growth of extremism. So some of my colleagues and I got together in 2007 and decided to start our own organization, and we named it the Marshall Direct Fund. We named it after the Marshall Plan, which was the successful diplomatic economic program that was put in place to prevent another world war after World War II, and that succeeded. So what we need now is a Marshall Plan that helps these war-torn areas from exploding into continued war that really knows no boundaries. The Marshall Direct Fund focuses in Pakistan primarily because in Pakistan there are 17 million children out of school. So 1 in 10 of the world's out-of-school children reside in Pakistan. Extremist organizations rely on these constituencies and the poverty to be able to carry out attacks. For every attack, for every bomber, there's at least 20 people, terrorist experts will tell you, behind them who they rely on them to be able to make the attack successful. They need people to falsify documents, they need places to hide their weapons, and that sort of thing. And basically they need these people to be able to be successful in their terrorism. The other thing they really rely on is women not being involved in the economy, because we see globally when women are involved in the economy, peace rises. In fact, if you increase women's participation in economies where there's conflict just by 5%, like a country like Pakistan, that country is 5 times less likely to resort to the use of force to resolve a conflict. So in a country like Pakistan where there are nuclear weapons, it's very important. We want to talk a little bit today about why women and children matter, and Farida will be telling us a lot about this. But most think tanks and experts agree that schooling is also a very big role in preventing the growth of extremism in Afghanistan. The Brookings Institute found that just adding 1 extra year of schooling decreases that country's likelihood of falling into civil conflict by 3%. So if we could get them all the way through high school, you have more than a 50% chance decrease in a chance of that country falling apart again. But why don't I introduce to you Farida Ahmed. She is our Director of Operations on the Ground, our CEO. She's an education and development expert with over 30 years of experience in education, teacher training, curriculum development, evaluation, school management, and administration. Previously, she worked as Director of Programs at Value Resources Limited. She led training programs for community-based organizations and mobilizers, focusing on social mobilization skills. Other projects have included carrying out evaluation and assessment of innovative education projects, focusing on quality education and improved access. She has held senior management positions at Westminster School and the college and the Capital School. Farida has set up and managed her own preschools and designed and implemented various education projects, including professional development programs for teachers, mentor projects, and language development programs. Farida has also been engaged with various initiatives that focus on women's empowerment, livelihoods, and skills development. She is a graduate of the Lahore College of Women University and also a certified trainer for Oxford seminaries. Please welcome Farida.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you. She said too many good things about me. Well, so that's it. So.
All right, I thought we could use this time just to discuss a little bit of everything, a little bit about the importance of education and why it matters in a place so far away like Pakistan, and maybe a little geopolitics, some foreign policy, just for fun, because I know you guys are smart. It's always fun to talk about that. But first of all, Farida, can you tell us how bad it gets for kids who are denied access to school in Pakistan?
So actually the problem comes from the government of Pakistan failing in its the goal that it wanted to achieve was for education for all, and it was part of the Millennium Goal. So coming to that, Pakistan could not make it. So in the next coming years, till 2015, where they had this target of having all the children enrolled for primary education, they are still far behind it. So considering that there are coming other organizations coming up, religious schools coming up, which enroll these children. So to prevent them from going to these religious schools, we have to look into schools, other options from them where children get access to education and better quality education, because access to education is a big problem in a poverty-ridden country like Pakistan.
Absolutely. I was going to mention how I first met Frida. Pakistan is a country of how many now? Maybe 190 million people.
Yes.
But yet, everywhere you go in Pakistan, people know each other, and it's quite amazing. But anyway, I met Frida through a mutual friend who is a Pakistani on the East Coast and a colleague of mine from graduate school. And sorry about that. And I was able to visit her school on my first trip over in about 2007 or 2008. I was most impressed by Farida's school. I visited dozens of schools to see. Can you guys all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
It's
Yeah, a little weird.
It's actually better.
Okay, perfect. Let me just turn this off. Okay, so I visited many schools. I visited government schools, the top English, Beacon House schools, all the schools in Pakistan. I went to her school, which was this little school like near a farmhouse. And I never saw a happier school of children before. I mean, all the children were raising their hands and asking questions, and they had a science lab, and they're excited to learn. And you really don't see that in most schools in Pakistan. In Pakistan, there's a lot of rote learning, a lot of, do as you're told and don't ask questions, don't shake things up. But that was not happening at her school. Her school, the kids wanted to ask a million questions and just want to know what's going on. And I just said, this is how I want the schools for Marshall Direct Funds. I want our schools to be like that. And then I didn't see Farida for a few years. And then we were reconnected, and she did some teacher training for us at our schools. And then the opportunity presented itself for her to start running our programs on the ground over there. So that's how I met Frida. But Frida, could you tell us what attracted you originally to start a school in Pakistan?
Well, actually, a time comes in your life when you want to give back to the society something that would help for its growth and betterment. So what could be better than education? So in a country like Pakistan, where we have almost 17 million children out of school, so unless you provide some opportunities from them or access to education from them, they would either end up as child labor or street children. So to prevent this, that was one thing that motivated me to start a school. Another important thing is the lack of access to education for the girl child. So people would give priorities to sons as compared to their daughters. So end of the day, the girls are denied their basic right to education. So out there we had to reach out to sensitize communities, to parents to send their daughters to school. And of course explain it to them that it is completely free education for them. So it took a while for us to convince them, but eventually we did. So this was one reason. And then another thing that was very important with all this Afghan situation going on, refugees coming in, and with these religious schools coming up. So it was important for children to be exposed to kind of moderate, enlightened education, where they would be, where you need to make them more tolerant, teach them what peace is all about, and of course democratic values and child rights. So these all things kind of put together, and that's how we started our school.
Farida, what do you find to be the biggest challenges running the schools?
The biggest challenge, well, ever since we've started these schools and I've been working with these schools, the biggest challenge is to get trained, good, qualified teachers. Teachers, as you know, are the basic critical component of any education system. So in Pakistan, unluckily, there are a couple of training institutions, but the communities that we are catering to, so the teachers come from the same communities. So we are a little, with all the schools that are usually in the outskirts of the cities. So usually the teachers are from the same community, educated, all right, but not trained. So the biggest challenge comes in to train those teachers, to get them to get them to familiar with the teaching concepts, how to carry on the classroom management, and the biggest challenge for them is when they are catering to these children who come from underprivileged families. So it's altogether a different concept of class management when it comes to them. So that's a big challenge that we find. That's the biggest, in fact. And the second challenge is as I mentioned, sensitizing parents to send their children, the girl child, to school. So these are the two basic challenges that we.
Well, Farida, I think you've done a great job, and with the people in the audience, some of them have been now multiple years helping support the scholarships for these children, and now women entrepreneurs to go to school. But just so you know, you guys have had great successes. So there have been over 2,000 scholarships provided for women and children to go to school and or go get vocational training or business training. We've also had several hundred children participating in the Global Kid Connect program. Some of them, your children might have done that, some of you who live here in the Valley, but we connect classrooms over there, the children there, to classrooms here in the United States, and they exchange ideas about what leadership is, what does peace mean, what's your culture like, what do you wear, do you have a chicken? I mean, it's everything, or do you like Justin Bieber, all this stuff. They share it, and shockingly, they actually like the same music. But one thing that we're really focused on now is the women that we're working with. And Farida, could you speak a little bit to that, about the barriers young women in particular in Pakistan face?
Well, in Pakistan, we have the young women have to face a lot of challenges, constraints, and they actually the background that they come, and it differs from region to region and culture to culture. So the biggest thing that young women in Pakistan, when you're talking about these underprivileged ones, so the biggest challenge that they face is mobility. So women are not allowed to move out of the house if at all they go, it is somewhere near the premises. So culturally, it is not acceptable. So the culture that is most of the rural culture there is like women should be confined to their house, look after their families. That's about it. That is their role. Men are the bread earners, winners, so they need to go out. So there's a big barrier there. Again, women are honor killings in Pakistan, honor crimes in Pakistan. That's a lot. And all that comes when women are not educated, not exposed to the world, not self-employed. Self-employment is one thing that is very, very, very important for these women in Pakistan. So what we need to do is, and we have been trying to do is, we've been providing adult literacy classes, so they are aware of their rights, they are aware of so many other things, access to finance, access to markets. So these are the small little things that need to be looked into because to kind of help them out to come out of these barriers.
Absolutely. I was just thinking about two women in particular who I met this year, and their stories very much moved me. You might have seen some of the flip-flops that are for sale. They're called Her Own 2 Feet, but basically the concept is stand a woman on her own 2 feet by what's on yours. And they're all hand-embellished by women entrepreneurs who are graduates of these programs. And these women are absolutely amazing. They run their own business. They don't work for us. They work for themselves, and we act as their buyer. They learn to negotiate. They have gone from being not even having a national ID card to having now a business license and a bank account and the ability to accept wire transfers internationally. It's really life-changing for them. And they're so happy to have access to the global market. Two of them, just to give you the idea of the backgrounds, one woman was rescued from a human trafficking ring where her own husband had sold her into this human trafficking circle, and she was in it for a year and a half until her sister found her and saved her. So she's one of the people involved. And another one actually tried to take her own life because she was so poor, she didn't want her family to have another mouth to feed. And that's the desperation, and especially in Islam, suicide is not something that is looked upon. Well, it isn't anywhere, we don't want anywhere, but especially in your religion, it's so to take it to that extreme, that's how difficult it is for them. So anyway, we're really happy when we get to see them rise above that and get to be strong and independent women. I think something that would be interesting to talk about, because a lot of people might say, well, why does this really matter? You could kind of dial it back to the end of the war, the proxy war we had and fighting the Soviets back in Afghanistan. And it was the end, and the troops were all pulling out. Well, here we are again, and our troops are about to pull out. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about that. And we didn't maybe have all the foresight that first time about what could happen, but let's talk about what might now happen if we don't pay extra attention. So how are external forces, such as the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan, going to affect the people of Pakistan and Afghanistan?
So people of Pakistan look upon it with a bit of apprehension, because repeating what happened in 1980s when the U.S. pulled out its support from Afghanistan. So, and the result was a chaos in the country. So this chaos, Pakistan first being the first front ally, went into the similar kind of a situation. It spilled over all over Pakistan. The chaos came over to Pakistan with influx of 3.3 million refugees to Pakistan. It was something that a country like Pakistan could not handle. With its already fragile economy, it was a huge burden on them. Awareness, nothing, and a lack of education, everything, and then those of foreign refugees, getting them in there, getting them settled there, was a huge challenge for Pakistan. So what is dreaded again is the same thing. So what if the history repeats itself? So we would be again in the same situation as it has been in the past. Secondly, there's another threat again to Pakistan, this with the withdrawal of the troops from Afghanistan. So there will be a security vacuum. And who's going to take over the security vacuum? The militants? So across the border, both sides of the border, this is how they operate, and this is how that's from where they function. So this is another big threat. So this vacuum is going to be taken over by the militants. So that's how we view it.
Currently, I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but Pakistan is actually currently fighting a major war internally, insurgency right there on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. They've gone into North Waziristan, which is a very sensitive area, and an entire history of that area. No government that ruled the country at that time that was running the area was allowed to ever have power into North Waziristan. It's a very tribal place. But anyway, it's where the Haqqani network is, and the U.S. government has put a tremendous pressure on the Pakistani government to destroy the Haqqani network because they are in cahoots with the Taliban that goes across the border and is fighting our troops and also the local troops now in Afghanistan. So this is a huge war going on, and there's actually already been, it's just been going on, how many months, maybe 2 or 3, it's short, 2 or 3 months. There's already been 500,000 IDPs, internally displaced people, who have been moved out, who are now putting additional burdens on the inner cities. They're in the slums, they're looking for jobs, there aren't jobs. They go into crime, they need a gun. If they're gonna be a good criminal, they go to the gun market, and the extremists find them through the gun markets. So it is a dangerous situation. Frida, the Pakistani people though are really tired of the Taliban, and they want them gone, but what do you think about this military advance and trying to get rid of the Taliban there? Do you think it's going to work? And if not, what more needs to be done?
Well, this was a long-awaited decision from which the people of Pakistan were expecting. So now that the Pakistan military has this full-fledged, what you call, they have confronted the northern western areas of where the bases of these Taliban exist. So people do feel that this was the kind of a thing that with the full force kind assault on these camps of these militants there. So people do have these expectations that it's going to, if not end, at least it's going to have those bases out of those places. So push them back, maybe a lot of them get killed in the process, which is, of course, you won't want people to get killed, but nevertheless, you want to get rid of them. So they're out there, and so yes, this is what the people expect from the military at this point, is to kind of push them back from wherever they can, get rid of them. So this is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that considering that both these, across the border, Afghanistan and Pakistan, the militant groups are based there. So all the attacks the terrorist attacks that are within Pakistan, they get carried out in Pakistan, are through coordination between these two groups. So this net has to be broken. So this intervention from the Pakistan army is probably going to help out, wipe them out from there, and maybe bring more peace to the country.
I read a chilling statement earlier this week by our mutual friend, or kind of the person who introduced us to somebody who was our mutual friend, but Hassan Abbas. He's, in my opinion, the top expert in the world about Pakistan. He used to head the counterterrorism police force in these areas, and he left the country, and he then spoke out against, he spoke about the training camps he saw, and then there were death threats against him. He wasn't allowed to go back to his home country. But he's a very brave man, a very smart man. But anyway, he has an article that he was interviewed in the Wall Street Journal last week, and he was discussing the TTP, which is the Taliban Pakistan. They're an offshoot, really, or kind of a wannabe Al Qaeda, but very bloodthirsty, terrible extremist organization. They're the ones who are responsible for Benazir Bhutto's assassination, also the shooting of the young girl Malala, the young student, and the recent brazen attack on the Karachi airport, which I think might have been the tipping point where they realized there's no such thing as good Taliban and bad Taliban anymore.
That's true.
Hassan Abbas reports that it's only a matter of time now until the TTP form an alliance with ISIS, which most of you probably know, but is the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, the extremist organization operating in Iraq right now. There are hundreds of TTP fighters out of Pakistan training on the ground in Iraq, and it's really a matter of a time until an alliance will be formed and violence will continue to spread across borders. Also, you might know the TTP, you might remember there was an attempted attack in Times Square, and it was thwarted a few years back, but that was that organization. But much like Al Qaeda would have a couple failures, they always went back and it always worked in the end. So it does matter. These organizations do threaten the United States national security, and especially when we're on the forefront now of having the troops come home, which is great and about time. We still have a lot of work to do. What would you say we can do together to overcome these challenges that we're going to face in the years ahead, Farida?
The country, Pakistan needs to work more on development projects at the moment. So we need to have more social projects there, social and development projects, education. Education for one, education literacy is one thing that can really root this out. So if we have schools, when we start with schools there, when we reach out to those people who do not have access to education, and then we teach them moderation, and we teach them peace, and then we teach them tolerance and values, democratic values, so that will make a huge difference. So this is where the contribution from everyone comes in, education, education, and education. So that's going to really help in the long run. Yes, Pakistan government does not have the capacity to do it, unfortunately. It has been engaged with targeting India throughout this time. It was not actually prepared for this kind of threat that came to it. So with the military, the intelligence, they were a failure as far as this threat came to them. They couldn't handle it. So all the focus went to the security side, trying to kind of handle it. Failed in that aspect also. But coming back to it, what can root this out is education. And there, of course, we are grateful, Pakistan, I'm coming from Pakistan, grateful to all of you for helping out in this noble cause, for all your contributions, for whatever you are doing there. Trust me, it gives a great satisfaction when you look at those children in those schools who would have been deprived of education. They had no access to education. They might have landed up in religious schools. They might have returned, which serve as basis for militant groups. So, breeding ground for training militants. So these children, when you see them there, when you see them getting quality education, so it goes a long way. I would invite all of you to come to Pakistan, see what you are doing for them. So, it's really something. Hats off to everyone.
Just to kind of finish on that note, it is important. I mean, when we talk about what has happened over the past 13 years of wars, these wars have cost U.S. taxpayers trillions of dollars in terms of real per capita dollars that have gone to aid programs like education, health, vocational training, business development. An average of $50 per capita has been spent by the U.S. government. You should compare that to what we spent to stabilize other countries in post-conflict situations. In Kosovo, the figure was $814 in 2000 and 2001. In Haiti, it was $152 in 95-96. In Bosnia, way back in 96-97, it was $1,390 on average spent per person, and we've spent $50 on average. You all haven't. You guys have actually done more than the U.S. government, so congratulations. But, we definitely need to do more. And I had a wise professor once, and he said, when you give peanuts to peacemakers and billions to weapons industries, you need to expect war. And this is the situation we have at hand. So I think now is the hour, now is the time to do all we can, and we don't want to have a repeat of what happened after the Soviets lost in Afghanistan when the country unraveled and this mess began. So with that, I would love to ask you, we have two special projects that we really need your help. The first one we need help for is actually just empowering the schools. We need power. There's load shedding over there, so there's only electricity available 1 hour on, 1 hour off all day long. Or not even that much, it's worse now?
Worse now.
Oh my God.
It's gone for 3 hours and you don't know when it's coming back.
It is.
And it's the grueling heat. So when you look at the children there, you feel so sorry for them. They're sitting there, sweating all over,
Yeah.
ready to faint.
It's 120 degrees sometimes, so to focus and to study, or even have lights, to have lights on, or computers, or Wi-Fi, to have access to Khan Academy and great resources like that. And so anyway, the load shedding has gotten so bad that even our backup power generators are being depleted at a faster rate than any. So tonight, there are really two asks I have. One would be for us to come together and raise $5,000 to power the schools for 5 years. That would cover the generators, the backup batteries they would need, and also all of the bills. That's one request. We also have a second request because it's time to grow. We want to add 1 grade to our schools each year so we can take these children all the way through high school. And the first step to doing this is to start a 6th grade, so middle school. It only takes $5,000 to add a 6th grade to one school. Who will join them in making their dreams come true and helping build a more secure and peaceful world? If you're willing to donate, if you have $1,000, it's tax deductible, and you want to support, the energy programs or the scholarship programs for a 6th grade class, could you raise your hand? And we have in the audience tonight, our volunteers will pass around forms. Thank you so much. Look at Jaden Hurst leading the way. Such a good girl, Terry. Thank you so much. Please, if you don't have 1,000, really, if you have $700, if you have $500, if you have $200, that sends a girl to school for 2 years over there. Please consider anything that you can give is going to go towards these programs, and we do invite you to come with us. We're there twice a year. You can come with us. Sherry Applebaum came. She had a good time. And we invite all of you to come and to meet these children and see the incredible progress you've made possible in their lives. And we really couldn't have done this without you. And thank you so much. One thing I'm supposed to say is that the silent auction will be closing at 7:15. So if anyone wants to play polo with that one handsome guy, get in there.
Yes, please. Yes, we should. Any questions?
Yeah.
We can open it up to questions.
Q&A? Yeah. Q&A.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a question. I can repeat it. So Just ask the question. Yes.
So you talked about women being not able to be on that much, which we've heard and read a lot about.
Yes.
But you managed to transcend that. Can you explain how someone is able to transcend that as a female?
So I'll just repeat the question if that's okay. Soledad Hurst asked, we were discussing how difficult it is for women, barriers to becoming involved in the economy and to be able to work outside of the home. And she was asking Farida, how was she able to do that? What circumstances enabled her to do so?
Well, I was one of the lucky ones who came from an educated family. My grandfather was a doctor, he was a surgeon who came to Vienna at that time for his plastic surgery. So I had an educated family. My uncles were doctors. My mothers went to college. So that we were a little. There is a class in Pakistan who do have this access, who have had this access to education and to good education also. So I was among those lucky ones. So and then of course with time and with seeing how things were and moving all around in Pakistan. So I was, well, I can say I'm a feminist. So, I was more moved to get women involved in because the barriers there, yes, they need to be broken. Then something needs to be done with them. So we were the lucky ones who moved out of that thing. But there are a lot many more which need the help, which need us to pull them out of that poverty, that, of course, the vicious cycle that they are in.
Does anyone else have a question?
Well, are you ever threatened? Do you face threats for doing this?
That was my question.
Okay, it's a joint question.
What is it? Terry has told me how when you travel to Pakistan, the mode in which you have to travel, and so I was wondering how it is for you to live there and carry out this work.
So they're asking about how it is for Farida as a woman to live in Pakistan and carry out the work she's doing there.
Do you face threats? Yeah, are there threats?
Not really. Actually, where we people, as for myself, so we live in like urban areas, cities, where these norms are more acceptable. So the more society civil society which we call, where we move in, we have a lot of support. So there is a class there who, yes, of course, we always feel threatened in Pakistan after these couple of years. So there are life threats, of course, then security threats. All the time they are there. And then we wouldn't want to go wrong. So, culturally, we wouldn't want to offend anyone. So publicly, we can't even speak for what we actually feel about things. So we have to tread very carefully. But yes, somebody has to do it. So why not us?
I definitely think that the danger generally, though, on a day-to-day basis are more for the people that live there. I go there, and I mean, I have received with open arms and the
We
most.
protect them.
Yes, well, it's the Pakistani, hospitality and code, and it's so true. Though actually, they're nicer. It's I've been to Europe, and I can tell you the Pakistanis are 20 times nicer, and the food's better too. But no offense to the Europeans and the crap. But anyway, it is it's for them, for their daily lives. I mean, they've lost tens of thousands of lives since this war on terror has begun. The attacks that are on the streets, and it's the people who live there every day that are risking their lives. And they come up with good ideas, though. I one time Liaquat told somebody they had the symbol MDF on the school for Marshall Direct Fund, and had somebody kind of asking questions, poking around. He had a long beard, and so Boucher thought on his feet, and he said, what is this MDF? And he said, oh, it's Mohammed Direct Fund. Okay, he carried on. So you get that a little bit. And I was just reminded and informed that we have two very generous families who want to match any of the donations that you're making here tonight. Mary and Patrick Scanlon and Adam and Melanie Lewis would like to match any donations that you give for these programs. So thank you very much to them. Are there any other questions?
With that, everyone should give at least $5.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it really goes such a long way. So yeah, so please sign up. No amount is too small or too big, so just fill it out. We can get a lot of work done together. Thank you, everyone. I think, go ahead.
I really have two questions, and one is and it's about the Pakistani effort against the Taliban. I've read somewhere that there have been over 50,000, or maybe it's 40,000 Pakistani soldiers who've lost their lives in the effort to stop the Taliban. What is that? 10 times as many as Americans have lost their lives in Afghanistan. And a lot of Americans don't realize that the Pakistani military has been fighting them. And I just wondered if you could comment on that, if that's true, or if that's just something I read that isn't right, or what.
Yes, it is. Frida, would you like to answer it?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Repeat the question.
Sure.
Oh, okay. So the question was about the Pakistani army's role in fighting terrorism and how many casualties it has faced in fighting terrorism in its war, really internally within its own border since the 9/11. Compared to American losses, including 9/11, right, and the losses we've had of our men and women in uniform.
The loss that you talk about it's a fact. These are the casualties that the Pakistan military has suffered. So, and a lot more to it. So half the facts come out, half the facts do not, even for security reasons in Pakistan. So, and what about the innocents' lives that are lost in the drone attacks, the drone strikes? You don't even think about that. So even though some would justify those, but they cause collateral, the damage. So there's a lot. Pakistan has lost a lot. So in terms of development, in terms of human resource, in terms of people, so it's had sacrificed a lot. So it's sad, but we do hope for good times.
And the number, just to repeat that, it was said last I checked, it was about 45,000 Pakistani army soldiers have been killed fighting the Taliban inside their own country. So yes, there's some duplicity and some problems with certain elements of our government and their government, but the vast majority of Pakistanis do not support the Taliban, and they've lost even more than we have in fighting this war.
And the other question, which is not at all related, but is, with all the generosity that people here are giving to this problem, how can just this small group affect it? Is it possible that they need to spread the word more widely to their friends, to try to influence more people to participate in this?
That's a good question, and we love that, but that's my dad. That's Nick Kelly, he's my dad. But he was suggesting that it would be helpful. We have so many smart people here, and you live all across the country, around the world. It really is helpful for you to even just inform people and let people know about these things, because I think it's going to be something you're going to be reading about, whichever paper you read, whichever news outlet you listen to. This is going to be front page news, and to be informed and understand what's working and what's not working, and to spread the word of how they can help would be tremendous. So please share the stories.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Late breaking news. You have 15 more minutes for the silent auction. We have now extended it till 7:30. You have 15 more minutes.
We saw it. It looked like our eyes were moving together.